Hey, Jen and Kara.
Hey.
Hey, Justin.
How's it going?
Good. Hi, Kara.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You're going to do fine with this.
I'm not excited about it.
This is a good learning experience for you.
I know, look at you pushing me out of my comfort zone.
And wasn't Carrie the perfect partner to do it with?
100%.
See, I know a thing or two sometimes.
I trust you.
Okay, I trust you.
Mm-hmm.
I trust you or I wouldn't have asked you to do it. So I have faith in you.
Well, thank you for the vote of confidence.
I can keep pumping you up.
Oh, funny. So how's the weather where you guys are? It's freezing here today.
I will tell you how warm it's here.
We could all live vicariously through you, Jen.
It's only like 84 or 5, but with humidity, it feels like 97 today. It's hot.
Holy moly.
Yeah, today's a hot one.
Yeah, rainy and low 60s in Northern Virginia.
Yuck. Are you getting snow anytime soon, Kara?
I hope not. That's like a dirty word. It's only 51 here, but it was 39 degrees this morning when I was coming into work.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm going to shoot Carrie a quick email here. I know she knows we have this. She must have got tangled up with something. Had you decided if she was going to share her screen or if you were? Did you guys talk about that?
We had not made that decision yet.
Okay. Because Justin, only one of them can, correct?
Yeah, so one person will share. Zoom will you can actually hand off controls to who wants to forward slides. But typically that's kind of a little clunky. There's like a delay there. And so usually I just have one person, one presenter control the slide deck.
Gotcha. Is that, Justin, when I do that collaboration where there's 5 of us, should I probably be the one then to advance all the slides for everybody since I'll be announcing each person in between?
Yeah, that would probably be best.
Okay. And we'll come up with a way that they can let me know that they wanted. I hate when somebody says, change slides, please. Next slide. All right, I sent her over an email.
Do you want to know how many registered thus far?
Kara, do you want to know?
I've looked.
Is it still at 181?
No, it's a little bit more, 187.
Oh,
So Kara, just so you know, a couple things. They all won't show up.
okay.
Given. And because we put this out on the website for anybody to register, it's easier to do that than me trying to just invite the chapters and make sure that they get the list and the link and everything.
Right.
People that just register for every webinar we ever do.
Right.
And it may not have any importance to them, but they do it, unfortunately. So you may get people that are not from the chapter world at all listening in.
Okay.
And some of them may just have a keen interest in the topic. We did one with Penny Owens on generations. And she specifically tied it to the chapter, but we had a lot of people that just were curious about working with generations in their agencies, regardless of whether all her examples were chapter-wise. So you are going to get some of those.
Hello.
Hi, Carrie.
Hey, I'm so sorry that I'm 4 minutes late.
It's okay. It's okay. We just wanted to make sure.
I'm here.
All right, Justin, I'll let you start this.
Okay. So were you both able to get on a Zoom fairly easy?
Yes.
Yeah, I get on it all the time.
Okay. So Kara, you've used it. Kara, have you used it before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Yeah, welcome to Zoom. And so, sorry.
Come on, Justin. Spit it out.
Yeah, it's been a really busy day. I'm sorry.
And late night from the ball game, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't stay up to watch the whole thing, but yeah. So, welcome to Zoom. Typically, for our webinars, I launch them 30 minutes before we begin, and I'm not expecting you guys to join that early, but when you do join, you actually see that I'll be sharing a promotional set of slides for NIGP. I typically ask our presenters to join 5 or 10 minutes early. When you do enter the room, I'll do a quick audio quality check with you. I recommend that you guys actually dial in using the dial-in information and not use your laptop mic if possible. Usually it's okay, but from the number of webinars that I've done, typically dialing in gives you just better quality and more stable audio. And we really don't want to go through the process of like having to switch over audio, during the webinar if we can help it. So like what you guys are, the audio that you're using now, is that the audio that you'll be using the day of the webinar?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm using my computer. I did not dial
Okay. And Kara, are you able to dial in, or is that your only source?
in. No, I can dial in.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I've had, I did one webinar one time when the tech checker went flawless, their audio was perfect, and then the day of the webinar, they were using like a mic, and the mic was like, I don't know, it was like right up against their lips, and it was just the worst audio, and they could not, like I tried chiming in 5 times during the webinar, and they would like fix it, but then it would come back. It was just awful.
And Kara, historically, Kara, we've had some problems with your Zoom sometimes because of using the computer. So that way it's just a fail safe for us.
Okay.
And so, yeah, after I do the quick audio check, as we get closer to the webinar start time of 2 p.m. Eastern, right around between 3 to 5 minutes, I'll take down what I'm sharing, and then you'll actually see this screen that you see now with the 3 icons in the middle. At that time, I typically will privately chat whoever's going to be sharing the final slide deck, and I can do that right now if.
Carrie, before you got on, I asked Kara about that. Justin let us know that it is easier if only one of you can share the slide deck, and it does make it easier if one of you does the advancing of the slides.
Okay.
So who would you like to do that?
I don't have a preference either way. I know that Kara and I have kind of talked about who was going to take which slide and if we were going to transition back and forth to each other amongst each slide and where we were going to pause to ask questions and things. So like, Kara, do you have a preference?
I don't really have a preference either way.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and advance the slide.
All right. Test you pulling up your presentation.
I can.
And the only reason we do, Justin, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in. The only reason we do that is if you do have two screens, we need to test it.
I have, yeah, and that's because I actually have 3, and I think that's tripped me up a little bit before when I was trying to share something because I needed to make sure what screen it needed to be on.
Yeah.
So let me pull it up. I actually just sent it to you also, Justin, so you have it because I know you said you needed the final slide deck today.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm hoping that it went through. When I was trying to send it to Kara, it went through, but when she would try to send something back to me, it wouldn't, and I think it's just a file size thing. So if you don't see it in your email, just please let me know, and I'll put it in a Dropbox. That's what we were having to do.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Okay. So I have it up on one of my screens. So what do I need to do? Go to share?
Yeah, so you'll click share, it'll open a box and you'll select the PowerPoint from that box.
Okay, so tell me what you see.
And so we actually see,
You see my desktop?
right, so it's actually, excuse me.
I don't see your desktop. I see the PowerPoint.
Yeah, so
I do too.
do you have 2 monitors, Carrie?
I have 3.
3, okay. So typically what I ask presenters when they have multiple monitors
Mm-hmm.
is to, so we're gonna take down this share. So we'll do stop share on your screen.
Yep.
And then minimize the zoom.
Uh-huh.
And then open up your PowerPoint and put it in presentation mode.
When you say presentation mode, like to show the slideshow, right?
Right.
Okay.
And then go back to Zoom, where you have the 3 icons,
Mm-hmm.
and click share again.
Oh, so I need to do on screen 3.
Yeah, and select screen 3, the one that has your presentation.
Do you see it?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So now I know what to do.
Yeah, it looks perfect.
All right.
So
And
then,
I'm planning to log in a little early anyway, just to make sure there's no glitches. So.
and then Carrie, you just need to, if I know you guys are going to bounce back and forth, but you'll just have to advance those slides, or Kara will have to kind of know when you're ready to move on to the next.
Yeah, and I think we've been kind of working through that because we've been talking about and sharing each of our talking points on each slide. And so we'll just have to kind of make sure, and I might just interject and say, I know which ones Kara's going to speak on, and I know which ones I'm only going to speak on, and I know which ones Kara's only going to speak on. So Kara, I might need a cue from you on the slides that you're only going to speak on to just let me know that you're done with that thought.
Okay.
You said earlier that did you put in spots for questions?
Yes, and that's something that we wanted to ask about because I know that this is scheduled for an hour and a half. I honestly don't think that it's going to even be, anywhere near that. And what we did was we put stops in at kind of subtopics, because if we wait till the end and ask questions, there's kind of 4 deliberate sections to this webinar. And so we thought that we would kind of pause at the end of each kind of subtopic, if you will, to ask questions, but we wanted to make sure that that was okay.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
And what is going to happen is I'm going to monitor. You guys are certainly welcome to monitor the Q&A and the chat. But when we get those sections, I'll actually read those questions aloud to you all.
Okay.
Not having done this a lot of times, it does make it easier for a third person to read the questions, so you don't have to see what pops up. Just remove them or say answered, so we know we've gotten to them. Those we don't get to, assuming we will, especially if you think that we'll have time at the end, but I'll help moderate those with you.
And yeah, I mentioned to Kara, to me, when I've done webinars before, I prefer not to see the chat box because to me it's distracting, right? Like I feel like I'm kind of in my thoughts and everything, and if I see that going on, it kind of throws me off a little bit. So that actually works out really well from my perspective. I prefer not to see the chats going on because I need to kind of focus on my thoughts. And for Kara's first opportunity to do a webinar, that probably might be helpful too, to kind of avoid any sort of distractions.
I agree. And Karen, I think it will make it easier. I think it's really hard to try to be in that mode of on to present, but yet monitor, especially if we get a lot of, they can fly through quick, and how do we scroll up to make sure we haven't missed anything? So since I'm not speaking, I will watch all of that. And then when you stop, I'll read you the questions. Also, launch, as Justin said, when you have that 2 or 3 minutes before, when he pulls his down and you put up your screen, right at the top of the hour, Justin starts recording. And then I will read the intro for you both and kind of give everybody the lowdown of who the two of you are, tips on how you ask questions, things like that. And then I will turn it right over to you guys to start.
Okay. That sounds good. I had a question in terms of kind of the expectation of time, and I know like Kara and I have been focused on the number of slides and kind of counting them and equating to, you know, trying to make it like last, you know, at least an hour and then Q&A and stuff. And I really don't have a feel right now for where we're going to land in terms of the time, you know, and so I know you guys a lot, like an hour and a half. What is the expectation in terms of time? It's certainly not going to be a 15-minute thing, but like where do these chapter sessions typically land in terms of the time?
Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've stayed right in that kind of sweet spot of an hour.
Okay.
And you know, they can be flexible. Again, we're not going to end in 30 minutes, but if we do not get a lot of questions, then you may be done in 45 or 50 minutes, and that's okay. I think as long as people feel satisfied that they got content, they have a webinar that they can go back and look at or listen to or read slides for, I'm comfortable with that. I think with the number of attendance that we have, we do have 187, Justin, did you say, registered? And I was telling Kara that, you know, all of that will not attend, and all of that is not chapter related people, because we posted on the website, anybody can register.
Right.
We'll get some kind of stragglers that just want to attend every NIGP webinar for points, and we understand that that happens. But historically, in the last couple, Justin, we've had a decent amount of questions. It hasn't been quiet. So I'd say if you're in that sweet spot of about that hour is perfect. I think an hour is a good enough time for chapters to be done. That's what we do our leader calls on. I think that's the time that they're used to spending. You go over by 10 because there's lots of great questions, or 15, that's awesome.
Okay. And I think that's helpful. And Kara, you and I will just need to kind of be aware of, you know, the time, and if we need to maybe interject some additional thoughts or things like that, just to kind of, I'm probably going to expand my introduction just a little bit, because I'm just really aware of the amount of time we're spending per slide, and I don't want to kind of cut it too short. And you're right, we don't know the number of questions that we might get asked. So I think that's kind of an important piece. And if we get a significant amount of questions, then certainly that will take some time also.
Here's another way, if you want to look at that time and say you were down to the last few slides, we're at 45 minutes. We did a webinar with Jill and Steve that were from Leadership Outfitters. They were ending short. What they started to do is to ask a lot of questions of the attendees. So we did polling, which for one of them, which I think worked and didn't work for the subject matter on something else. But if you find that you were not getting questions at one of these breaks, maybe it's a good time to say, you know, hey guys, as we're talking through this, if you want to put in the chat box, you know, how many of you are using X, Y, or Z? And that's something that we could bring up. Discussion happens. And I could say, hey, most people are saying that they're not using Twitter at all, because you're not going to see that in the audience. You're not going to see that raise of hands that nobody is using Twitter yet. So if you kind of lead them into that in some places, then I can monitor that and say, you know, that's what feedback I'm getting is everybody's using everything, or nope, they're not using this at all. And that's good feedback or good lends for some more open discussion. If we-
Okay.
you know.
Another option to eat up more time would be some seed questions. If any seed questions that Jennifer can ask, like kind of during those breaks in the presentation, so that if it's just crickets and you guys are ripping through the presentation, at least then there's a question and you've already kind of got the answer set up. That way you could eat, maybe a minute or two.
And if you want to think about those, Karen, Carrie, and send me a couple, even if I don't say them verbally, even if I just throw them into the chat,
Yep.
it's just other things for us to glean some information that we could pause at that Q&A and say, hey, Carrie and Kara, I posted this question in the chat. This is what I'm hearing people say. If you want to think about that, but again, as long as you guys run that 45, 50 minutes, I'm not concerned about the time, unless Justin, you are.
No, I think we would want to hit at least 45. Like that's the low
Yeah.
threshold. And like the C questions would just be a fail safe too if you weren't getting questions at all.
And I have a thought too. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Jen, would that information be helpful to NIGP if we asked how many in attendance have a social media platform and what are they using? Would that type of information be valuable to you guys regardless?
I mean, it would be valuable. And Carrie, I remember a long time ago, we've had this discussion about how NIGP's Facebook page could filter or connect in with the chapters, and it's not as easy as we think it is.
But actually in the slides, I've actually kind of identified how many are using which platform, and it's not like scientific. It literally was me doing searches. So like I kind of have some of that data already in there just because I thought people might be interested to see how few are using which platform or which platforms are being used more.
Kara, I think that's going to be enough. NIGP is not as progressive as we'd like to be when it comes to social media ourselves.
Right.
And I think that's enough data for us to use. I really wish there was a cleaner way for us to, when NIGP posts something on Facebook, of how we can push that to the chapter Facebooks. But it's not that easy, is it, Carrie?
No, it's not.
Because that would be awesome, because a lot of you guys are turning around. I know both of you do it to your chapter.
Yeah.
NIGP pushes out last chance to register for VCon. Both of you put it on your Facebook page. It'd be awesome. We pushed it out and it went to your pages, but that's not how that world works.
Right.
But I think, Kara, that's a good point for you maybe when you talk about content development and you were talking about kind of learning from other chapters and seeing what they're doing. I think that's probably a good point, is to say, take a look at what NIGP is posting and feel free to share that, content as well.
Right.
We encourage that. I think, especially, I know you guys are going to talk about it, that you have to stay current. You have to be consistent with constantly putting things out, not every 4 months or 3 months, that you've got to show that there's activity. And it's hard to come up with stuff if your chapter is not as active or doing things. And I think here you do news articles that happen in the state that might be relevant. And any NIGP stuff is free and easy just to repost.
So I think that's good. Like we can maybe try to think of some seed questions, Kara, just for some things that we might want to kind of feed in case we're not getting questions. I think that's a good thing to think about with each topic, with each section. One other thing that I had, and I think, Justin, you might have put this on an email, but you talked about like any kind of handouts. And really the only thing that we're referencing in the PowerPoint itself are the 2 social media policies that you guys already have posted on your website. So I was just going to kind of refer people to the area of the chapter, the chapter resources on the website to get those. I didn't know if you wanted, you have them as separate files, obviously, because you guys posted them. But those really are the only 2 documents that we're going to refer to specifically in there that somebody might want to see specifically. So I didn't know how you wanted to kind of handle that, if you just want us to make reference to where they are on your website, or if you want to kind of attach them as part of the materials.
Yeah, we can grab those links and drop them in the chat if that comes up, Jennifer.
Yeah, and I think referencing, I think it's another great point, that reference that there's a resource guide instead of just giving it to them. It forces some action into that space. And if somebody says they can't find them, then we can grab them and, like Justin said, put them into the chat.
And I think it might be a good kind of question just to say, hey, for those of you that are attending, if your chapter also has a social media policy, please, share a link, share the document with us, so that we can see how they're structured, because they're structured differently. So I think that's kind of a good prompt.
And I remember when you presented this at Forum, we did get a lot of questions. So I really think that there is going to be some engagement. I think chapters are trying to get into this world. They're still struggling. They don't have people. They don't have the tools. They don't know what they're doing. They're scared to do it. So I do think there's going to be engagement. I really do.
Okay.
All right. I'm comfortable if you ladies are comfortable, and Justin is.
I'm good. Are you good, Kara?
I'm good.
Okay. It's
I'm
going to
so
be fine.
Kara.
Yeah.
So I guess the last thing, just at the end of the webinar, I would think Jennifer would just ask if you guys have any closing comments, and then Jennifer will close it out and we'll end it. And then that's it. You guys don't have to worry about any of that stuff, any of the questions.
Oh, Carrie, I did send you.
I owe you some objectives, right?
Yes. Yeah. Can we get those, can you put them in the survey?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send those to you.
Just high level overarching. And Justin, I'll get those to you.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
All right,
Talk to you
guys.
tomorrow.
Talk tomorrow. Carrie,
right.
you're doing great.
Well, thank you.
Have a glass of wine tonight and relax. Read through your slide.
You'll do
All
fine.
right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys.